The siege of Kepler Station, the mining station Kepler 7, drifted in the asteroid belt like a wounded animal, its hull peppered with scorch marks and twisted metal. For 6 weeks, the station had endured the Valdari Empire's relentless siege, and everyone aboard knew they were living on borrowed time. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the command center's main viewport, watching the enemy fleet maintain its perfect formation. 37 Valdari warships hung in space like predators circling dying prey. Their crystalline hulls reflected the distant starlight, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. The Valdari had given them an ultimatum 3 days ago: surrender. The station's rare mineral deposits or face complete annihilation. Sarah had refused. Now, with supplies running low and half her defensive systems offline, she wondered if Pride had signed their death warrant. The station housed 8,000 souls, miners, engineers, families who had come seeking fortune. In the asteroid belts, rich deposits of trilithium crystals. The Valdari wanted those crystals to fuel their expansion across the sector, and they didn't care how many humans died in the process. Earth's colonial defense fleet was stretched thin, across a dozen systems, fighting brushfire wars against multiple aggressive species. No reinforcements were coming. Everyone knew it, though no one dared say it aloud. Lieutenant James Park approached Sarah with a datapad, his face gaunt from weeks of rationed meals. The young officer had aged years in the past month, his once bright eyes now dulled by exhaustion and loss. "Commander, we've lost another water recycler. At current consumption rates, we have maybe 10 days of drinking water left." His voice carried the weight of their situation. Every system failure brought them closer to the inevitable dot. Sarah took the report without looking at it. The numbers didn't matter anymore. Whether they died from thirst, starvation, or Valdari plasma weapons, the result would be the same. "Double the rationing," she ordered quietly. "And James, don't tell the civilians about the recycler. Let them hold on to hope a little longer." The command center hummed with desperate activity. Engineers worked around the clock to keep their failing systems operational. Medical teams treated the wounded from the last bombardment with dwindling supplies. Communication officers sent out distress calls that disappeared into the void, unanswered. The station's defensive grid, once capable of repelling pirate raids, had been reduced to a handful of point defense turrets that wouldn't last 5 minutes against a concentrated assault. Dr. Alina Vasquez entered the command center, her medical coat stained with blood that wouldn't wash out. "Sarah, we need to talk about the children." Her voice cracked slightly. The station housed nearly 500 children, and their parents were growing increasingly desperate. Some of the families are asking if we should consider the Valderis. Terms, they think slavery might be better than death. Sarah's jaw tightened. She understood their fear, but she also knew the Valdari's reputation. They didn't take slaves, they took test subjects. Their biological experiments on conquered species were legendary for their cruelty. "The answer is still no, Alina. We die free or we find another way." A proximity alarm suddenly screamed through the command center. Sarah's heart sank as she saw movement in the enemy fleet. The Valdari ships were adjusting formation, their weapons systems coming online. This was it. They had grown tired of waiting. She turned to her crew, seeing her own resignation reflected in their faces. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill." The station shuddered as everyone moved to their positions. Parents hugged their children. Lovers exchanged final words. Soldiers checked weapons they knew wouldn't make a difference. Sarah stood straight, refusing to let her fear show. If humanity's last stand at Kepler-7 was to be recorded by history, she would ensure they faced it with dignity. Then something impossible happened. The station's long-range sensors, one of the few systems still functioning properly, detected an anomaly at the edge of the system. A massive energy signature was approaching at speeds that shouldn't be possible. The signature was unlike anything in their database. Not Valdari, not any known alien configuration. As it drew closer, the computer finally found a match in its archives. It was human, but the configuration was classified at levels Sarah didn't even have clearance for. "Commander, you need to see this," Park called out, his voice filled with something Sarah hadn't heard in weeks, wonder. On the main display, a ship emerged from the darkness between stars. It was enormous, easily dwarfing the largest Valdari cruiser. Its hull was matte black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it, making it nearly invisible against the void. Only its running lights and engine glow gave away its position. Along its sides, Sarah could make out weapon systems that looked more like installations than ship-mounted armaments. The communication system crackled to life with a transmission, so powerful it overrode every frequency. A deep voice, calm and assured, filled the command center. "Kepler-7, this is Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the UES Phoenix Rising. I apologize for the delay. Traffic was murder getting here." There was a pause, then the voice hardened. "Valdari Fleet, you are in violation of human territorial space. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal or face immediate termination. This is your only warning." Sarah's legs nearly gave out. The Phoenix Rising was a myth, a legend whispered in military academies. It was supposedly humanity's first true warship, built in secret using technologies reverse-engineered from a dozen conquered adversaries. Black-budget projects, experimental weapons, armor that could withstand direct hits from antimatter warheads. No one believed it actually existed. The Valdari fleet's response was predictable. They turned their weapons toward the new arrival, their commanders' chittering laughter echoing across all channels. One ship against 37. Humans truly are delusional. All vessels, destroy this arrogant newcomer. Space erupted in violence. The Valdari fleet fired as one, hundreds of plasma beams and missile volleys racing toward the Phoenix Rising. Sarah watched in awe as the human warship's point defense systems activated. Laser grids appeared around the ship like a spider's web of light, vaporizing missiles before they could impact. The plasma beams struck the ship's armor and simply dispersed, absorbed by some kind of energy field that made their shields look like tissue paper. Then the Phoenix Rising returned fire. Magnetic accelerator cannons along its hull spoke in sequence, launching projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The first Valdari cruiser simply ceased to exist, transformed into an expanding cloud of superheated gas. The second tried to evade but found itself caught by weapons that seemed to predict its movement. Within 60 seconds, 5 enemy ships were gone, and the Phoenix Rising hadn't even deployed its main armament. Captain Rodriguez's voice returned, still maddeningly calm. "Kepler-7. Be advised, we're about to get loud. You might want to reinforce your radiation shielding." Sarah barely had time to relay the order before the Phoenix Rising's bow split open, revealing a weapon that made her blood run cold. It was a directed energy weapon of some kind, but the power readings were off the charts. The weapon fired a beam of coherent energy, so bright it temporarily overloaded the station's visual sensors, lanced through space. It carved through 3 Valdari ships in a line, their shields offering no more resistance than air. The beam continued past them, and Sarah watched in horror and fascination as it struck an asteroid 5,000 kilometers beyond, vaporizing it instantly. The Valdari fleet, for the first time in recorded history, broke formation in panic. Their disciplined attack dissolved into chaos as ships fled in every direction. But the Phoenix Rising wasn't finished. Drone fighters launched from its hangar bays, hundreds of them, each one equipped with weapons that could cripple a corvette. They swarmed through space like angry hornets, pursuing fleeing enemies with relentless efficiency. Lieutenant Park was crying. Sarah realized she was too. Around the command center, her crew watched in stunned silence as the tide of battle reversed. In minutes, the Valdari, who had tormented them for weeks, were being systematically destroyed by a single human ship. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was an execution. Kepler 7, this is Phoenix Rising, actual, Captain Rodriguez transmitted. We're reading critical system failures across your station. Prepared to receive emergency supplies and medical teams. And Commander Chen, well done holding the line. Earth remembers its own. Sarah finally found her voice. Captain Rodriguez, we thought no one was coming. Someone is always coming, Commander. It just takes us time to arrive. Phoenix Rising out, as escape pods from destroyed Valdari ships scattered into the void, and the surviving enemy vessels jumped to hyperspace in full retreat. Sarah allowed herself to collapse into her command chair. They had survived. Against all odds, against all logic, humanity had come for them. The Phoenix Rising moved closer to the station, its massive bulk blotting out the stars, and Sarah had never seen anything more beautiful. Humanity's defiant stand, the aftermath of the Phoenix Rising's arrival transformed Kepler 7 from a tomb in waiting to a hive of renewed activity. Supply shuttles streamed from the warship's hangar bays, bringing medical supplies, food, water, and most importantly, hope. Captain Marcus Rodriguez himself came aboard the station, and Sarah finally met the man who had saved 8,000 lives. Rodriguez was not what she expected. Rather than the grizzled warrior she had imagined, he was a soft-spoken man in his 40s with kind eyes and prematurely grey hair. He walked through the station's corridors, personally checking on the wounded, speaking with families, his presence alone seeming to lift the oppressive atmosphere that had settled over Kepler 7. The Phoenix Rising isn't just a warship, he explained to Sarah as they toured the damaged sections. It's a statement. For too long, humanity has been seen as weak, divided, easy prey for empires like the Valdari. We've been reactive, defensive, always scrambling to protect what's ours. The Phoenix program changes that. We're done being victims. Sarah watched repair crews from the Phoenix Rising work alongside her exhausted engineers. They brought technologies she had only read about in theoretical papers, nano-repair systems that could seal hull breaches in minutes, quantum processors that could restore their entire computer network, medical equipment that could save lives her doctors had already written off. How long has this ship existed? She asked. 3 years in active service, Rodriguez replied. We've been handling situations the public never hears about. Genocide attempts, slavery rings, resource theft on massive scales. The galaxy is more dangerous than Earth's government wants civilians to know. But that's changing. The Phoenix Rising is just the first. There are 4 more under construction. A communication officer rushed up to them, his face pale. Captain, Commander, we're detecting a massive hyperspace signature. It's huge. They rushed to the command center, where the main display showed something that made Sarah's heart skip. It wasn't just one signature, it was dozens. An entire fleet was dropping out of hyperspace at the system's edge. The Valdari Empire's second armada, Rodriguez said grimly. They don't take kindly to losing. On the screen, over 100 Valdari ships materialized, including dreadnoughts that dwarfed even the Phoenix Rising. They've come to make an example of us all. Sarah felt the familiar weight of despair settling in, but Rodriguez seemed unconcerned. He activated his personal communicator. Phoenix Rising, execute contingency 7. It's time to show them why humans survived when so many other species didn't. The Phoenix Rising began to change. Its hull plating shifted, revealing additional weapon systems that had been hidden. Energy readings spiked to levels that made the station's sensors scream warnings. But more importantly, it began transmitting something, a signal that penetrated every system, every frequency, reaching into deep space. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked. Rodriguez smiled, calling in a debt. "You see, Commander, humans have a reputation in this galaxy. We're stubborn, we're creative, and we're dangerous when cornered. But what really sets us apart is that we remember our friends, and we've made quite a few friends over the years." The Valdari fleet advanced in perfect formation, their weapons charging. Their admiral's message boomed across all channels, its translation dripping with contempt. "Humans, you have destroyed vessels of the Empire. The penalty is the complete extinction of your species in this sector. Your one ship, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against the might of the Second Armada." Rodriguez took the communication console. His response was measured, almost conversational. "Admiral Zexita, I presume. I've read your file. 17 genocides, 43 enslaved worlds. Quite the resume. But you've made one critical error. In your calculations, you assume we're alone." New hyperspace signatures appeared on the sensors. Sarah gasped as ships began emerging throughout the system. But these weren't human vessels. A massive Tyrellian dreadnought dropped out of hyperspace, its captain transmitting on an open channel. "The Tyrellian Republic remembers when humans stood with us against the Void Hunters. We stand with them now." More ships arrived, and peacekeepers, their vessels gleaming silver and gold. Humanity shared their medical technology freely during the Spore Plague. We have not forgotten. A wing of crystalline fighters, beings of living mineral who rarely involved themselves in organic conflicts. Humans taught us the concept of friendship. We come to honor it. Within minutes, ships from 24 species had arrived. Some were military vessels, others were converted cargo haulers with weapons hastily mounted. Some were massive, others tiny, but they all formed up around the Phoenix Rising and Kepler-7, a defensive line against the Valdari Armada. The Valdari Admiral's composure finally cracked. "This is impossible. These species have no alliance with Earth." Rodriguez's voice carried across the void. "You're right. There's no formal alliance, no treaty, no political agreement. This is something your empire could never understand. These people are here because they choose to be. Because sometime, somewhere, a human helped them when no one else would. We call it friendship. You're about to learn why that's more powerful than any empire." The battle that followed would be remembered in history books across the galaxy. The Valdari Second Armada, faced with unexpected opposition, attempted their traditional strategy of overwhelming firepower. They focused their attack on the Phoenix Rising, believing that destroying the human warship would break the ad hoc alliance's resolve. They were wrong. The assembled fleet fought with a coordination born not of training but of purpose. Tyrellian dreadnoughts absorbed massive damage to protect smaller ships. Andromedan peacekeepers used their advanced medical frigates to evacuate wounded from damaged vessels, regardless of species. The crystalline fighters, immune to certain energy weapons, placed themselves between the Valdari and more vulnerable organic ships. The Phoenix Rising lived up to its mythical namesake. Even when Valdari dreadnoughts concentrated their fire, the ship seemed to absorb the damage and strike back harder. Its experimental weapons carved through enemy formations, while its defensive systems protected not just itself, but extended coverage to Allied ships. Rodriguez commanded the battle with a calm precision that inspired those around him. Turning chaos into coordinated resistance, Sarah watched from Kepler-7's command center, her own defensive guns adding their small contribution to the battle. But she noticed something else happening. Throughout the station, civilians were organizing. Miners who had cowered for weeks were now volunteering to help with repairs. Families were sharing their hoarded supplies with newcomers from the Phoenix Rising. Children were drawing pictures for the soldiers, messages of hope and thanks. Commander Dr. Vasquez appeared beside her, tears streaming down her face. The medical teams from the Phoenix Rising, they've saved 43 critical patients. We thought we'd lost. They're sharing technology that's decades ahead of what we have. They're not just saving us, they're elevating us. The tide of battle turned when the Phoenix Rising unveiled its ultimate weapon. Not a gun or a bomb, but a transmission, a hack that penetrated the Valdari fleet's central command network. Rodriguez had been stalling, letting his cyber warfare specialists work. When they succeeded, every Valdari ship suddenly lost coordination. Their perfectly synchronized fleet dissolved into confusion as individual captains found themselves isolated, unable to communicate. The Allied fleet pressed. Their advantage, ships that had been on the defensive surged forward. The Valdari, so dependent on their rigid command structure, couldn't adapt to the chaos. One by one, their ships began to retreat, then flee. Admiral Zexita S. Dreadnought, isolated and surrounded, finally sent a signal of surrender. Rodriguez's response was broadcast across the system. Admiral, you will collect your survivors and leave human space. You will carry this message to your empire. Humanity is no longer alone. We stand with those who stand with us. And if you return, you won't face one ship or one species. You'll face a galaxy that has learned to stand together. As the defeated Valdari fleet limped away, the Allied ships began to disperse. Each captain transmitted messages of solidarity before departing. The Tyrellian commander's words resonated. Today, humanity has shown the galaxy what we could be if we chose unity over division. This will not be forgotten. Captain Rodriguez returned to Kepler-7 one last time before the Phoenix Rising departed. He found Sarah in the observation deck, watching the stars. "We'll leave a defense squadron here," he said. "The station will be rebuilt, stronger than before. Earth is establishing this as a forward operations base. You've held the hardest ground, Commander. Now it's time to build something better on it." Sarah turned to him, still processing everything that had happened. "Captain, why did all those species really come? One ship's distress signal couldn't have brought that response." Rodriguez smiled. 50 years ago, a human colony ship found a Tyrellian vessel drifting in deep space, its crew dying from radiation poisoning. We could have claimed salvage rights. Instead, we saved them. 30 years ago, human scientists spent 3 years developing a cure for a disease ravaging Andromedan worlds, asking nothing in return. 20 years ago, a human child on a space station shared her last meal with a starving crystalline youth, not knowing it would grow up to be a fleet commander. Every act of kindness, every moment of compassion, every time we chose to help instead of harm, it all matters. The galaxy remembers, Commander, and when we called, it answered. As the Phoenix Rising departed, its black hole disappearing into the void, Sarah stood among her people. The station was scarred but not broken. Its inhabitants were traumatized, but not defeated. They had stared into the abyss and survived because humanity had refused to abandon them. But more than that, they had witnessed something remarkable, a glimpse of what the galaxy could become when species chose solidarity over conquest. The children on Kepler-7 would grow up with a different understanding of humanity's place in the universe, not as victims or conquerors, but as builders of bridges, makers of friends, and defenders of those who couldn't defend themselves. The Phoenix Rising had brought more than salvation. It had brought a new paradigm. Sarah returned to her duties, but now with renewed purpose. Kepler-7 would be rebuilt, not just as a mining station, but as a symbol. A place where humanity had made its stand and where the galaxy had stood with them. The Valdari Empire would think twice before threatening human space again, not because they feared one ship, but because they now understood that attacking humanity meant facing the combined resolve of everyone humanity had ever helped. The war was far from over, but the battle for Kepler-7 had proven something fundamental. In a galaxy full of empires built on fear and dominance, the most powerful force might just be the simple act of showing up for each other when it mattered most. The Phoenix Rising had emerged from the darkness, but it had illuminated something far more important, that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its weapons or technology, but its ability to inspire others to stand together against the dark.
The ultimatum. Humanity faces an alien threat. The sweltering heat of a Washington, D.C. summer seemed to intensify as world leaders gathered in an emergency session at the United Nations headquarters. The usual chatter and political maneuvering were conspicuously absent, replaced by a tense silence that spoke volumes about the gravity of the situation. Dr. Elena Reyes, the newly appointed Secretary General of the UN, stood at the podium, her usually calm demeanor betraying a hint of strain. She took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the room filled with the most powerful individuals on Earth. Distinguished delegates, I stand before you today with news that will forever change the course of human history. She began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. 12 hours ago, we received a transmission from an alien civilization calling themselves the Zoraxian Imperium. A collective gasp rippled through the assembly. Murmurs of disbelief and shock quickly spread, but were silenced as Dr. Reyes raised her hand. I know this is difficult to process, but I assure you, this is not a drill or a hoax. The message was received simultaneously by every major space agency and verified by our top scientists. She paused, allowing the gravity of her words to sink in. The Zoraxians have issued an ultimatum. Earth must surrender a significant portion of its resources and accept their rule, or face total annihilation. The room erupted into chaos. Shouts of defiance mingled with cries of fear and disbelief. Dr. Reyes waited patiently for order to be restored before continuing. We have been given 1 Earth year to comply. The Zoraxians claim to have a vastly superior military force and technology beyond our comprehension. They view us as nothing more than a primitive species ripe for conquest. In the third row, General Marcus Chen of the United Earth Defense Force leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. He had spent his entire career preparing for threats to global security, but nothing could have prepared him for this. As the clamor in the room grew, he caught Dr. Reyes' eye and gave a subtle nod. It was time to reveal humanity's ace in the hole. Dr. Rice cleared her throat, silencing the room once more. However, we are not as defenseless as the Zoraxians believe. For the past 2 decades, a secret international coalition has been preparing for the possibility of extraterrestrial contact, both peaceful and hostile. Gasps of surprise echoed through the chamber as she continued. Operation Sentinel, as it's called, has made significant advancements in propulsion, energy weapons, and defensive technologies by reverse engineering artifacts recovered from various sites around the world. General Chen stood up, his commanding presence drawing all eyes to him. Distinguished leaders, I am General Marcus Chen, head of the United Earth Defense Force. While the Zoraxian threat is grave, we are not without hope. Our clandestine space fleet, though small, is equipped with technology that may level the playing field. He activated a holographic display in the center of the room, showing sleek spacecraft unlike anything the public had ever seen. These ships represent the pinnacle of human engineering combined with adapted alien technology. We have a fighting chance, but we'll need the full cooperation of every nation to expand our fleet and prepare our defenses. As the implications sank in, a tense silence fell over the assembly. Dr. Rice spoke again, her voice filled with determination. We stand at a crossroads. The choice before us is clear: submission or defiance. I propose that we, as a united human race, choose to fight. The silence was broken by the delegate from Kenya, who stood up with fire in his eyes. My people have faced colonization before. We will not bow to these aliens. Earth stands united. One by one, other delegates rose, voicing their support. The room that had been filled with fear and chaos just moments ago now resonated with a sense of unity and purpose. Dr. Rice nodded, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Then it's decided. We have 1 year to prepare for the fight of our lives. Every resource, every mind, every hand will be needed in this effort. This is no longer about individual nations or ideologies. This is about the survival of our species. As the assembly adjourned, world leaders huddled in groups, already beginning to formulate plans. General Chen approached Dr. Rice, his face grim but determined. Madam Secretary General, we have a lot of work ahead of us, he said. Dr. Rice nodded. Indeed we do, General. But if there's one thing I know about humanity, it's that we are at our best when faced with impossible odds. Assemble your team. We need to begin Operation Sentinel's expansion immediately. As they left the chamber, neither of them noticed the janitor in the corner, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light as he tapped a hidden communication device. The Zoraxian spy had witnessed everything, and his masters would not be pleased to learn that their primitive prey had teeth. In the days that followed, the world changed dramatically. The public announcement of the Zoraxian ultimatum was met with initial panic, but as details of Earth's secret preparations were revealed, fear gave way to a fierce determination. Cities transformed into hubs of military and scientific activity. Factories retooled to produce components for the expanding space fleet. Universities became think tanks, with the brightest minds working around the clock to push the boundaries of physics and engineering. In orbit, the first of Earth's new defense satellites were deployed, their advanced sensors scanning the depths of space for any sign of the approaching Zoraxian fleet. On the far side of the moon, hidden shipyards worked tirelessly, constructing vessels that would serve as humanity's first line of defense. As the months passed, the people of Earth united in a way never before seen in human history. Old rivalries were set aside, resources were pooled, and a new sense of global identity emerged. They were no longer citizens of individual nations, but Terrans, defenders of Earth. Amidst this flurry of activity, Dr. Elena Reyes and General Marcus Chen worked tirelessly to coordinate the global effort. Late one night, as they reviewed the latest progress reports in a secure underground facility, Elena voiced the concern that had been nagging at her. Marcus, do you think we're really ready for this? The Zoraxians have likely conquered countless worlds. We're preparing to fight an enemy we know almost nothing about." General Chen was quiet for a moment, his weathered face thoughtful. "Elena, throughout history, humanity has faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. The Zoraxians may have advanced technology, but they've underestimated us. That's their first mistake." He pulled up a holographic display of Earth's growing fleet. "We have something they don't expect. The element of surprise. They think they're coming to subjugate a primitive species. Instead, they'll be meeting a united planet ready to fight for its freedom." Elena nodded, drawing strength from his confidence. "You're right. We've achieved so much in so little time. But there's still so much to do." "Then we better get back to work," Marcus said with a grim smile. "The clock is ticking, and humanity's future hangs in the balance." As they returned to their tasks, neither of them could shake the feeling that somewhere out in the vast expanse of space, the Zoraxian fleet was drawing ever closer. The greatest test in human history was approaching, and failure was not an option. Earth would stand defiant, ready to shock the galaxy and claim its place among the stars. Thank you for your interest in continuing the story. I'll now provide part 2 of our HFY science fiction tale, focusing on Project Phoenix, Earth's secret weapon. This part will delve deeper into humanity's preparations and introduce a key technological development that could turn the tide against the Zoraxian threat. Part 2. Project Phoenix, Earth's secret weapon. The hidden research facility, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, buzzed with frenetic energy. 6 months had passed since the Zoraxian ultimatum, and humanity's brightest minds were working against the clock to give Earth a fighting chance. Dr. Aisha Patel stood before a holographic display, her dark eyes intense as she manipulated complex equations with a flick of her wrist. At 32, she was already considered one of the world's foremost experts in theoretical physics, but the challenge before her now dwarfed anything she had faced before. "Dr. Patel," a voice called from behind her. She turned to see General Chen striding into the lab, accompanied by Dr. Rice and a man she didn't recognize. "How's our secret weapon coming along?" Aisha sighed, running a hand through her short, curly hair. "Progress is complicated, General. The theory is sound, but practical application is proving challenging." Dr. Rice stepped forward, her brow furrowed with concern. "We're running out of time, Aisha. The Zoraxian deadline is less than 6 months away." "I'm aware of the time pressure," Aisha replied, a hint of frustration in her voice. "But we're talking about bending the very fabric of space-time. It's not exactly something you can rush." The stranger cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. He was a tall, lanky man with a shock of white hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through you. "Perhaps I can be of assistance," he said, his voice carrying a slight German accent. General Chen nodded. "Dr. Patel, allow me to introduce Dr. Klaus Schmidt. He's been working on a parallel project in Europe, and we believe his research might be the key to unlocking Project Phoenix." Aisha's eyes widened in recognition. "Dr. Schmidt, the quantum entanglement pioneer. Your work on instantaneous communication across vast distances is legendary." Schmidt smiled modestly. "You're too kind, Dr. Patel. But it's your work on manipulating subspace fields that truly pushes the boundaries of physics. I believe that by combining our research, we might just give humanity the edge it needs." Over the next few hours, Aisha and Klaus delved deep into the intricacies of their respective theories. The rest of the research team gathered around, watching in awe as two of the greatest scientific minds of their generation worked in perfect sync. As the day wore on, their excitement grew. Equations that had stumped them for months suddenly fell into place. Theoretical models that had seemed impossible began to show promise. "This is it," Aisha exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. "By using quantum entanglement to stabilize the subspace field, we can create a bubble of altered spacetime around our ships." Klaus nodded enthusiastically. "Ja, and not just that. We can use it to our tactical advantage. Imagine being able to slow down time within the bubble while maintaining normal time outside. Our pilots could have minutes to react, while only seconds pass for the enemy. General Chen leaned forward, his military mind already grasping the implications. You're talking about a massive tactical advantage. Our ships could outmaneuver anything the Zoraxians throw at us. Dr. Reyes, however, looked concerned. This sounds promising, but can we implement it in time? We have less than 6 months before the Zoraxian deadline. Aisha and Klaus exchanged glances. It won't be easy, Aisha admitted. We'll need to reconfigure the drive systems on all our ships, create new training protocols for our pilots. And the energy requirements will be enormous, Klaus added. We'll need to develop new power sources capable of sustaining the field. General Chen's face was grim but determined. Whatever you need, you'll have it. Every resource, every mind, every second we can spare. This is our best shot at leveling the playing field. As the group dispersed to begin implementing their breakthrough, Aisha felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. They were on the verge of something that could change the course of the coming war, but the challenge ahead was daunting. Over the next few months, Project Phoenix consumed every waking moment for Aisha, Klaus, and their team. Sleep became a luxury as they raced against time to turn theory into reality. The first prototype tests were disastrous. Drone ships equipped with the space-time manipulation field either ripped themselves apart or vanished into unknown dimensions. But with each failure came new insights, new refinements to the technology. Finally, 3 weeks before the Zoraxian deadline, they were ready for a manned test. The chosen pilot was Captain Zara Okoye, a decorated veteran of Earth's fledgling space force with nerves of steel and reflexes to match. As Zara's sleek fighter craft hovered above the secret testing ground in the Australian outback, tension in the control room was palpable. Aisha and Klaus exchanged nervous glances as they initiated the startup sequence for the Phoenix drive. Phoenix 1. This is Control. General Chen's voice was steady over the comm. You are clear to activate the drive on my understood Control, Zara's calm voice replied. I was born ready for this. Activating Phoenix drive in 3, 2, 1. Mark. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a shimmering field enveloped Zora's ship, distorting the air around it like a heat haze. Control, this is Phoenix 1. Zora's voice crackled over the comm, sounding strangely distorted. The drive is active, and holy shit, you've got to see this. The sensor readings were off the charts. From their perspective, Zora's ship was moving at impossible speeds, leaving afterimages in the sky. But for Zora, time had slowed to a crawl outside her bubble. It's incredible, she reported. I have so much time to react, to think. It's like the rest of the world is standing still. The test was a resounding success. In the days that followed, every available ship was fitted with the Phoenix drive. Pilots underwent intensive training to handle the new technology, pushing the limits of human reaction time and spatial awareness. As the Zoraxian deadline loomed ever closer, a sense of nervous anticipation filled the air. Earth's fleet, though small compared to what they expected from the alien armada, was now equipped with technology that defied the laws of physics as most understood them. The night before the deadline, Dr. Rice addressed the world in a globally televised broadcast. Her words were measured, but filled with quiet determination. People of Earth, tomorrow we face our greatest challenge. The Zoraxians come not in peace, but with the intent to subjugate or destroy us. But we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. She paused, her gaze seeming to meet every viewer's eyes. Tomorrow, we declare in one voice. We will not surrender. We will not bow. We are humanity. And this is our home. To the stars we say, come and take it, if you dare. As her words echoed across the planet, millions looked to the sky with a mixture of fear and defiance. In orbit, Earth's fleet stood ready, the Phoenix drive humming with potential in every ship. Humanity had done all it could to prepare. Now they could only wait for the coming storm, ready to fight for their very existence. The next day would determine the fate of Earth and humanity's place in the galaxy. The greatest battle in human history was about to begin. Certainly, I'll now continue with part 3 of our HFY science fiction story, focusing on First Contact, First Blood. The battle begins. This part will detail the initial confrontation between humanity and the Zoraxian forces. Part 3, First Contact, First Blood. The battle begins. The tension in Earth's Orbital Defense Command Center was palpable as the clock ticked down to the Zoraxian deadline. Admiral Jae-hoon Park, commander of Earth's United Space Fleet, stood before a massive holographic display of the solar system, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow. "Status report," he barked, eyes never leaving the display. Lieutenant Commander Fatima Al-Rashid's fingers danced across her console. "All systems nominal. Admiral, the Phoenix drive is online and stable across the fleet. Long-range sensors are at maximum sensitivity, but still no sign of the Zoraxian armada." Admiral Park nodded, his expression grim. "They'll be here. Stay alert." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the command center. Red warning icons blossomed across the holographic display. Multiple FTL signatures detected. Fatima called out, her voice tight with tension. They're everywhere, sir. It's not just a fleet. It's an armada." The hologram zoomed out, revealing hundreds, then thousands of alien ships popping into existence at the edges of the solar system. They varied in size from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything in Earth's arsenal. Admiral Park's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. "So be it. All ships, battle stations, initiate Operation Firewall." Across Earth's fleet, pilots and crew scrambled to their positions. Captain Zara Okoye, now commander of the Rapid Response Squadron Phoenix Wing, felt a surge of adrenaline as she strapped into her fighter. "Phoenix Wing, form up on me," she ordered, her voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. "Remember your training. Trust in the Phoenix drive. We are humanity's first line of defense." As Earth's ships moved into defensive formations, a transmission cut through all communication channels. A holographic figure materialized in command centers and cockpits alike. A tall insectoid being with iridescent exoskeleton and multifaceted eyes. "Beings of Earth," the alien's voice resonated with an otherworldly timbre. "I am Supreme Commander Zixthera of the Zoraxian Imperium. Your time has expired. Surrender now, and we may yet be merciful. Resist, and you will be eradicated." Admiral Park stepped forward, his holographic avatar facing the alien commander. "Supreme Commander Zixthera, I am Admiral Jae-hoon Park of the United Earth Defense Force. We have considered your offer of surrender, and we have a response." He paused, a hint of a smile playing at his lips. "Humanity respectfully declines. This is our home, and we will defend it to our last breath." Zixthera's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or annoyance. "So be it. Your primitive species will make an amusing footnote in the annals of our conquests." The transmission cut off abruptly. For a moment, there was silence. Then the void of space lit up with the fire of 1,000 suns as the Zoraxian fleet opened fire. "All ships, evasive maneuvers." Admiral Park commanded. "Activate Phoenix drives and engage at will." For Earth. The battle erupted in a dazzling display of destructive force. Zoraxian energy weapons lanced out, expecting to obliterate the human fleet with ease. But to their shock, the Earth ships seemed to flicker and dance between the beams, moving with impossible speed and precision. Captain Zara Okoye felt time slow to a crawl as her Phoenix drive engaged. She watched a Zoraxian plasma bolt crawl past her cockpit, adjusting her fighter's trajectory with millisecond precision. "Phoenix Wing, weapons free. Show these bugs what happens when they pick a fight with humanity." Her squadron unleashed a barrage of missiles, each one guided by AI systems that adapted to the Zoraxians' evasive patterns in real time. Explosions blossomed across the alien formation as the missiles found their marks. Aboard the Zoraxian flagship, Supreme Commander Zixthera watched in disbelief as the supposedly primitive human fleet held its own against his vastly superior forces. "Impossible," he chittered. "How are they moving like that? Amplify our weapon yields. Crush these insects." The space around Earth became a maelstrom of energy weapons, missiles, and debris. The Phoenix Drive gave human ships an incredible advantage in maneuverability, but the sheer number of Zoraxian vessels began to take its toll. "We've lost the Intrepid and the Valor," Fatima reported, her voice tight. "The Zoraxians are pushing towards our inner defense line." Admiral Park's mind raced through tactical possibilities. "We need to thin their numbers. Initiate Operation Trojan Horse." Across the battlefield, seemingly disabled human ships suddenly sprang to life. These were specially designed drone ships, packed with experimental weaponry. They accelerated on suicide runs into the heart of the Zoraxian fleet, detonating in massive electromagnetic pulses that disabled scores of alien vessels. The tide of battle began to shift. The Zoraxians, caught off guard by humanity's level of technology and sheer tenacity, found themselves on the defensive for the first time in centuries. Captain Okoid's voice crackled over the command channel. "Admiral, we've detected a weakness in the Zoraxian flagship's shielding. Request permission to lead an attack run." "Permission granted, Captain," Admiral Park replied. "Give them hell." Zera's squadron streaked towards the massive Zoraxian command ship, weaving through a storm of defensive fire. With split-second timing made possible by the Phoenix Drive, they launched a synchronized missile strike at the flagship's vulnerable points. The resulting explosion was visible from Earth's surface, a new star briefly igniting in the sky. The Zoraxian flagship, pride of their armada, began to list, secondary explosions rippling along its hull. In the chaos that followed, the alien fleet's coordination began to falter. Supreme Commander Zixthera, his own ship crippled, watched in fury as his invincible armada was fought to a standstill by a species he had dismissed as primitive. "All ships, fall back and regroup," he ordered, mandibles clicking in agitation. "We underestimated these humans. We must reassess our strategy." As the Zoraxian fleet retreated to the outer solar system, a cheer went up across the human ships and in command centers around the world. They had bloodied the nose of a galactic superpower, proving that humanity was not to be trifled with. But Admiral Park and the other leaders knew this was just the beginning. The Zoraxians would be back, and next time they wouldn't underestimate Earth's defenses. "Well done, all of you," Admiral Park addressed the fleet. "But don't celebrate just yet. This was just the first battle in what will likely be a long war. We've surprised them once. We won't have that advantage again." As the adrenaline of battle faded, the enormity of what had just occurred began to sink in. Humanity had faced its first extraterrestrial threat and emerged victorious, but at a great cost. The void around Earth was littered with the debris of both human and alien ships, a somber reminder of the lives lost. Dr. Elena Reyes, watching the aftermath from the UN headquarters, felt a mix of pride and trepidation. "We've won the battle," she murmured, "but the war for our place in the galaxy has only just begun." As Earth's fleet regrouped and began search and rescue operations, all eyes turned to the stars, wondering when and where the next attack would come. Humanity had proven its worth on the galactic stage, but the greatest challenges still lay ahead. The age of Earth's isolation was over. The era of interstellar conflict had begun. Certainly, I'll now continue with Part 4 of our HFY science fiction story, titled Turning the Tide. Human Ingenuity Unleashed. This part will focus on humanity's efforts to push back against the Zoraxian threat and showcase human adaptability and creativity. Part 4. Turning the Tide. Human Ingenuity Unleashed. 3 months had passed since the initial Zoraxian assault, and Earth was a planet transformed. The brief respite following humanity's surprising victory had been filled with frantic activity as the world prepared for the inevitable counterattack. In a repurposed aircraft hangar in Bangalore, Dr. Aisha Patel stood before a gathering of the world's top scientists and military strategists. The dark circles under her eyes spoke of countless sleepless nights, but there was a fire in her gaze that no amount of exhaustion could extinguish. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice carrying across the cavernous space, "the Zoraxians will return, and when they do, they'll be prepared for the Phoenix Drive. We need a new ace up our sleeve." With a gesture, she brought up a holographic display of what appeared to be a standard missile. "I present to you Project Chimera. On the surface, it looks like one of our conventional warheads. But inside, the hologram expanded, revealing a complex network of nanomachines and adaptive AI systems. Is a swarm of self-replicating, adaptive nanobots. Once deployed, they can infiltrate Zoraxian systems, rewriting code and repurposing their technology against them." A murmur of excitement rippled through the crowd. General Chen, who had been listening intently, stepped forward. "Dr. Patel, are you saying we can turn the aliens' own weapons against them?" Aisha nodded, a grim smile on her face. "That's exactly what I'm saying, General. But it gets better. The nanobots are equipped with quantum entanglement communicators. Once they're in the Zoraxian systems, we'll have real-time intelligence on their fleet movements, weapon capabilities, everything." As the implications sank in, the hangar erupted in a flurry of questions and excited discussions. Dr. Reyes, who had been silently observing, raised her hand for quiet. "This is impressive work, Dr. Patel," she said, her expression a mix of hope and concern. "But I have to ask, what are the ethical implications of this technology? Are we not risking becoming the very thing we're fighting against?" A hush fell over the room as all eyes turned to Aisha. She took a deep breath before responding. "It's a valid concern, Dr. Reyes. We've programmed strict ethical guidelines into the Chimera Eye. It won't target life support systems or cause unnecessary harm. Our goal is to disable and deter, not to annihilate." Before further discussion could unfold, alarms blared throughout the facility. Admiral Park's voice came over the intercom, tense but controlled. "The Zoraxian fleet has been detected entering the solar system. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill." As the assembly scrambled into action, Dr. Rice caught Aisha's arm. "I hope you're ready to test your creation, Dr. Patel. The fate of humanity may well rest on it." Aisha nodded, her jaw set with determination. "It'll work. It has to." In orbit, Earth's fleet took up defensive positions. The ships had been retrofitted with new armor and weapon systems, lessons learned from the previous battle. But the real game-changer was hidden within their missile bays, the Chimera warheads. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the flagship, defiant, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Zoraxian fleet was larger this time, their formations tighter. They had learned from their previous defeat. "They're not underestimating us this time." Captain Zora Okoye's voice came over the comm. Her squadron of fighters flanked the Defiant, ready for action. "Good," Admiral Park replied, a hint of steel in his voice. "That means they're afraid. All ships, prepare to engage. Operation Hydra is a go." The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire. This time, the Zoraxians were ready for the Phoenix Drive's capabilities. Their attacks were more coordinated, their targeting algorithms adapted to predict the humans' enhanced maneuvers. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as though humanity's advantage had been neutralized. Several Earth ships fell to the initial barrage, their loss felt keenly by all who watched. But Admiral Park remained calm. "Now," he ordered, "launch the Chimera missiles." Across the human fleet, missile bays opened. Hundreds of warheads streaked towards the Zoraxian armada. The aliens' point defense systems sprang into action, detonating many of the missiles before they could reach their targets. But it didn't matter. The explosions released clouds of nanobots that spread through space, latching onto Zoraxian hulls and infiltrating their systems. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, chaos erupted within the alien fleet. Ships began firing on each other. Shields dropped inexplicably. Communication channels filled with static and false orders. The massive dreadnoughts, pride of the Zoraxian fleet, found themselves unable to fire their main weapons. In the Defiance Command Center, holographic displays lit up with streams of data pouring in from the Chimera nanobots. "It's working," Fatima exclaimed, her fingers flying over her console. "We're getting real-time intel on their entire fleet." Admiral Park allowed himself a small smile. "Transmit targeting data to all ships. Let's press our advantage." The battle that followed was unlike anything seen before in Earth's history. Human ships, guided by intimate knowledge of their opponent's weaknesses, struck with surgical precision. Zoraxian vessels found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned by a force they had once considered primitive. On the Zoraxian flagship, Supreme Commander Zix Thera chittered in fury and disbelief. "What sorcery is this?" he demanded, watching helplessly as his fleet fell into disarray. "How are these humans doing this?" As the tide of battle turned decisively in Earth's favor, Zix Thera was faced with a choice he had never anticipated: retreat or annihilation. "All ships," he finally ordered, his voice heavy with the bitter taste of defeat, "disengage and retreat beyond the system's edge. We must regroup and reassess." As the Zoraxian fleet fled, leaving behind a trail of crippled and destroyed ships, a cheer went up across the human forces. They had not just survived. They had triumphed. Back on Earth, in the bustling command center, Dr. Rice turned to Aisha, awe in her eyes. "You did it, Dr. Patel. You may have just saved humanity." Aisha shook her head, a tired but satisfied smile on her face. "We did it. All of us. This victory belongs to every human who refused to give up in the face of impossible odds." As celebrations erupted around the world, the leaders of Earth's defense forces gathered to assess the situation. The Zoraxians had been driven back, but everyone knew this was far from over. "We've bloodied their nose twice now," General Chen said, his face grim despite the victory. "They won't underestimate us again. And we've shown our hand with the Chimera technology." Admiral Park nodded in agreement. "We've won the battle, but the war is far from over. The Zoraxians will be back, and they'll have countermeasures." Dr. Rice looked around the room, taking in the faces of those who had led humanity to this unprecedented victory. "Then we'll be ready," she said, her voice filled with quiet determination. "We've proven that humanity can stand against the greatest threats the galaxy can throw at us. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." As the meeting adjourned, all eyes turned to the stars visible through the command center's windows. The universe had become a much larger, more dangerous place, but humanity had risen to the challenge, showcasing ingenuity, courage, and unity in the face of existential threat. The Zoraxians would return, of that there was no doubt, but Earth would be waiting, its people united, its technology advancing, ready to fight for their place among the stars. The age of human isolation was over. The era of galactic citizenship had begun. A new dawn, humanity's place in the stars. The Grand Assembly Hall of the United Nations buzzed with an energy unlike anything in its history. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered, their faces a mix of determination and wonder. On the massive screen dominating the front of the hall, a live feed showed the unthinkable. A Zoraxian delegation approaching Earth under a flag of truce. Dr. Elena Rice stood at the podium, her posture straight, her eyes sharp. Beside her stood Admiral Jae-hoon Park, General Marcus Chen, Dr. Aisha Patel, and Captain Zora Okoye, the faces of Earth's unexpected victory against a galactic superpower. "My fellow citizens of Earth," Dr. Rice began, her voice carrying across the silent hall and to billions watching worldwide. "Today marks a new chapter in human history. In the face of overwhelming odds, we stood united. We fought not just for our survival, but for our right to exist as free beings in this vast universe. The hall erupted in applause, quickly quieting as she continued. The Zoraxian Empire, which sought to subjugate us, now approaches in peace. But make no mistake, this is not surrender, neither theirs nor ours. This is the beginning of a dialogue, one in which humanity will stand as equals. On cue, the doors to the assembly hall opened. A hush fell over the crowd as the Zoraxian delegation entered. Leading them was a figure the world had come to know all too well, Supreme Commander Zixthera. His chitinous exoskeleton bore scars from recent battles, and his multifaceted eyes scanned the room warily. As the Zoraxians took their place at the designated table, Dr. Reyes addressed them directly. Supreme Commander Zixthera, you came to our world seeking to conquer. You return now seeking peace. We are listening. Zixthera's mandibles clicked as he activated a translation device. People of Earth, his alien voice resonated through the hall. We came to your world believing you to be primitive, unworthy of consideration in the greater galactic community. We were wrong. A murmur rippled through the assembly at this admission. Your species has demonstrated resourcefulness, adaptability, and a fierce determination that I gravely underestimated. The Zoraxian Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds, but never have we encountered a species like humanity. He paused, his alien features unreadable to human eyes. We propose a ceasefire, and the beginning of diplomatic relations between our civilizations. The hall erupted in a mixture of cheers, skeptical murmurs, and heated discussions. Dr. Reyes raised a hand for silence. We appreciate your proposal, Supreme Commander, she replied, her tone measured. However, humanity's introduction to the galactic community began with an unprovoked threat of extinction. You must understand our hesitation to trust. General Chen stepped forward, his voice firm. Any ceasefire agreement must include the following non-negotiable terms. First, the immediate recognition of Earth and all human colonies as sovereign territory, free from any claim by the Zoraxian Empire. Second, reparations for the damage and loss of life caused by your invasion. And third, the sharing of advanced technologies, particularly in the fields of medicine and sustainable energy. Zixthera's antennae twitched, a sign of agitation or perhaps grudging respect. Your terms are bold for a species so new to the galactic stage, but not unreasonable. We are prepared to negotiate in good faith. As the diplomatic talks began in earnest, Dr. Aisha Patel slipped away to a secure communication room. On the screen, the faces of scientists from around the world looked back at her expectantly. The diplomatic team will handle the official negotiations, she said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. But we have work to do. The Zoraxian technology we've glimpsed is just the beginning. There's a whole universe of scientific knowledge out there, waiting for us to discover it. One of the scientists, a young astrophysicist from Nigeria, leaned forward. Dr. Patel, do you really think they'll share their advanced tech with us? Aisha smiled, a hint of mischief in her expression. Whether they want to or not, we've already gotten a head start thanks to Project Chemra. Our job now is to understand and improve upon what we've learned. Humanity's next great revolution will be scientific, and we're going to lead the charge. Meanwhile, in a secure briefing room, Captain Zara Okoye addressed a group of Earth's top pilots. The Zoraxians may be here peacefully now, but make no mistake, the galaxy is a dangerous place. Our job is to be ready for whatever comes next. She brought up a holographic display of sleek new spacecraft designs. Thanks to the technology we've acquired, we're about to take a quantum leap forward in space exploration and defense. You've proven yourselves the best pilots on Earth. Now, I'm offering you the chance to become the first true guardians of humanity among the stars. The excitement in the room was palpable as the pilots realized the historic opportunity before them. Back in the main assembly hall, the negotiations continued into the night. As dawn broke over New York, Dr. Rice, and Sixthera stood side by side before the world's press. "Today, we announce the dawn of a new era," Dr. Rice began. "The Earth-Siraxian Accords have been signed, marking the official end of hostilities and the beginning of a new chapter of peaceful cooperation." Sixthera spoke next, his alien voice tinged with what might have been respect. "The Ziraxian Empire recognizes Earth and its colonies as a sovereign power. We extend an invitation to humanity to join the Galactic Council, where your voice will be heard among the oldest civilizations in the galaxy." As the announcement was met with cheers and celebration around the world, Dr. Rice felt a tug on her sleeve. A young aide whispered urgently in her ear. Her eyes widened as she listened. Then she quickly excused herself from the podium. In a private room, she found Admiral Park waiting, his face grave. "Madam Secretary General, we've just received a transmission from deep space. It's not from the Ziraxians." He activated a holographic display, showing a message in an alien script that pulsed and shifted, defying easy translation. "What does it say?" Dr. Rice asked, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension in her voice. Admiral Park's expression was unreadable. "As near as we can tell, it's a warning, or perhaps an invitation. The translation isn't perfect, but it seems to say, 'The true test approaches. Prepare yourselves, young ones. The fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance.'" Dr. Rice stared at the shifting alien script, a shiver running down her spine. Humanity had survived its first contact with an alien civilization, had fought and earned its place among the stars. But it was clear that their journey was far from over. New challenges, new wonders, and perhaps new dangers awaited them in the vast expanse of the cosmos. As she turned to leave, to face the press and a world eager for news of their bright future, Dr. Rice paused. "Admiral," she said softly, "whatever's coming, we'll face it the same way we face the Ziraxians, together." Admiral Park nodded, a hint of a smile on his weathered face. "Together," he agreed. As they stepped back into the light of a new day, the first dawn of Earth's new era as a galactic civilization, both knew that humanity's greatest adventures were still to come. The stars, once distant and unreachable, now beckoned with infinite possibilities. The end.